Hello everyone and welcome to The No Show. I'll be your host Nathan Orenstein, and today I'm going to be ranking the 10 Best Picture nominees at this year's Oscars. Well, that's what the title says at least. I'm actually going to be ranking the 14 nominated films across the so-called Big Five categories at the Oscars. This includes Best Picture, Best Director, Best Writing, Adapted or Original Screenplay, Best Actor in a Leading Role, and Best Actress in a Leading Role. I don't have anything else to add. Let's get right into it. At number 14, we have Emilia Perez, nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actress, Adapted Screenplay, International Feature Film, Supporting Actress, Film Editing, Sound, Cinematography, Makeup and Hairstyling, Original Score, and Original Song, twice. I don't want to talk about Emilia Perez. Aren't we all sick of hearing about Emilia Perez? If you don't know what I'm talking about, feel free to do a quick Google search about any of Emilia Perez's many controversies and have yourself a fun hour or two going down that rabbit hole. But I'm here to judge movies based on their actual quality, unhindered by the mess that surrounds them. And yeah, Emilia Perez still kind of sucks. Who would have guessed that the Spanish language musical directed by a French guy about a Mexican cartel boss wanting to transition into a woman would be such a mess? The story is a bizarre combination of ideas that simply don't work together, strung together with pretty bad musical numbers sung by people that generally have no business singing on film. I will say, I do like what the movie's doing visually for the most part, and I wouldn't be upset if Zoe Saldana wins Best Supporting Actress, which is looking incredibly likely. But as a whole, it's mind-boggling that Emilia Perez racked up 13 total nominations when it probably should have missed the Oscars altogether. At number 13, we have September 5, nominated for Best Original Screenplay. So we move from the most controversial movie of the year to a movie I haven't heard a single person talk about. September 5 recounts the terrorist attack at the 1972 Olympics in Munich from the perspective of the ABC Sports news team. In some instances, it offers an interesting perspective on live news coverage and whether it helps or hurts the victims of attacks such as this. In other instances, it feels completely disconnected from the real meat and potatoes of this story, as you're left to experience everything from the newsroom and not inside the actual Olympic Village. All in all, it's a perfectly acceptable historical drama film that you'll probably forget about by the end of the week you watch it. The film's got a good energy to it, and the performances are all pretty solid, but it's just not really doing anything memorable at all, and nothing you haven't seen before either. At number 12, we have Wicked, nominated for Best Picture, Actress, Supporting Actress, Costume Design, Film Editing, Makeup and Hairstyling, Production Design, Original Score, Sound, and Visual Effects. In many ways, Wicked is the Barbie of this year's Oscars, a mega popular phenomenon of a film that was pretty inescapable for a while, that also happens to be surprisingly good. Now, Wicked wasn't as popular as Barbie, and it's not as good as Barbie either, but the comparison still holds up for the most part. I know this is pretty low on the ranking, but I do think this is a good film and one that I liked a lot more than I expected. I have plenty of gripes with it, but it's also kind of hard to deny just how entertaining it all is. Cynthia Erivo is fantastic as Elphaba, but Ariana Grande really stole the show for me, and she'd be my pick for Best Supporting Actress. The songs and choreography are all great too, and make this a much must-watch musical, even if I think the screenplay leaves a lot to be desired. Here's to hoping Part 2 can move even further up this list when it's inevitably nominated at next year's Oscars. At number 11, we have A Complete Unknown, nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actor, Adapted Screenplay, Supporting Actor, Supporting Actress, Sound, and Costume Design. At this point, Hollywood is almost just as oversaturated with musical biopics as it is with superhero movies. A Complete Unknown just so happens to be the latest one, following Bob Dylan's rise from obscurity to his controversial decision to go electric. Yes, A Complete Unknown feels quite similar to pretty much every other musical biopic out there, but it's also just a fundamentally very good film. Director James Mangold cultivates a really strong vibe that smoothly carries us through 5 years of Dylan's life without many hiccups, while really highlighting the music itself. I wouldn't be surprised if over half of this movie is just Bob Dylan, or someone else, playing music. And frankly, the rest of the movie is mostly just people talking about music. You're not getting much of anything personal about Bob Dylan or his relationships here, or even his writing process. What you are getting, though, is an incredibly strong lead performance from Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan, and a really pleasant showcase of the early 60s folk music scene, highlighted by Bob Dylan, of course, and also Joan Baez. It's a good musical biopic, but it's really nothing to write home about. At number 10, we have I'm Still Here, nominated for Best Picture, Actress, and International Feature. I'm Still Here is this year's surprise Best Picture nominee, a pick that seemingly no one was expecting. It's the true story of a mother coping with the disappearance of her husband after he was taken under the military dictatorship of 1970s Brazil. Fernanda Torres is absolutely incredible in this lead role, and she would 100% be my pick for Best Actress. Her character is a doting mother of 5, a concerned wife, a persecuted activist, and above all else, a woman trying to survive the crushing weight of all these things while still putting on a brave face. The entire film revolves around her as she navigates this impossible situation, and Torres is more than capable of carrying the movie on her back. It's a very heavy and grounded film for sure, but there were unfortunately moments where the more minimal writing and direction left me feeling a bit bored, and its lengthy runtime didn't help in that regard either. Despite that, the film and its powerful story has stuck with me, largely due to Torres' masterful performance. I'm Still Here wouldn't have made my personal Best Picture lineup, but I also can't complain too much about its surprise inclusion at the Oscars. At number 9, we have The Apprentice, nominated for Best Actor and Supporting Actor. The Apprentice really surprised me, honestly. A Donald Trump biopic coming out months before the election just felt like a disaster waiting to happen for any number of reasons. But this is actually a really good film and not just some obvious bait for liberals and conservatives to fight over. Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong are both excellent in their roles as Donald Trump and Roy Cohn, respectively, really grounding this film in reality while still capturing the inhuman evil in both of them. But the reason this movie actually works as well as it does is due to Ali Abbasi's direction. This very easily could have gone down the boring biopic route, or could have just as easily swung into parody, but Abbasi really approaches the film with an artistry and an energy that I frankly wasn't expecting. Its depiction of the mega-rich living it up in 1970s and 80s New York City is, dare I say, fun. Even if the effect does wear off when you remember that this real-life supervillain is once again the President of the United States. At number 8, we have Conclave, nominated for Best Picture, Actor, Adapted Screenplay, Supporting Actress, Original Score, Editing, Production Design, and Costume Design. It feels kind of wild to say this, but the movie about the cardinals of the Catholic Church coming together to elect a new pope is probably the movie on this list I'd recommend to the most people. Despite its cold exterior and potentially uninteresting premise, Conclave really is an incredibly fun time. We follow Cardinal Lawrence as he uncovers ugly secrets about the potential candidates, disrupting the voting process and slowly eliminating them from contention one by one. It borders on being a little goofy at times, but the juxtaposition of cardinals gossiping amongst one another while also discussing truly heavy real-world consequences make for a riveting script and one that will almost certainly take home the award for Best Adapted Screenplay. But the rest of the film surrounding the screenplay, from the performances to the score to the editing, even to the lighting, is also quite impressive too. I'm a little shocked it finds itself so far down this list, but we've started to hit some great movies now, so this is where Conclave shall remain. At number 7, we have Anora, nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actress, Original Screenplay, Supporting Actor, and Film Editing. Anora is starting to seem more and more like a lock to win Best Picture, and while it's not my choice by any stretch, I can still at least get behind the pick. The story of a young sex worker marrying the son of a Russian oligarch days after they met, only to have the rug pulled out from under her when his parents find out, is uplifting, then hilarious, but finally devastating. It's got a simple 3-act structure that's easy to digest, but is constantly painting the portrait of Anora, a young woman who is both entirely independent, but also completely out of her depth in this scenario. Mikey Madison, like the previously mentioned Fernanda Torres, is juggling a lot of different things in this performance, and her ability to take all of that and mold it into a single compelling character is really impressive. She's also kind of hilarious, as is the rest of the cast, and the movie is just as much a comedy as it is a romantic drama, especially in the middle. Sean Baker, as usual, kills it as the director, writer, and editor here, and these elements all come together to make a super entertaining film that flows really well through each of the film's fairly distinct acts. I'm not sure the film reaches the highs that I'd expect a Best Picture winner to reach, but it's still damn good from start to finish. At number 6, we have The Substance, nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actress, Original Screenplay, and Makeup and Hairstyling. Can we just take a second to acknowledge how insane it is that we're even talking about The Substance in this video? It's only the 7th horror film to be nominated for Best Picture, and it's the first body horror film ever to be nominated for Best Picture. Incredible stuff, and I am fully here for it. Coralie Farjat's take on the societal pressure for women to stay young and to have perfect bodies is incredibly bold and constantly in your face, with both its grotesque body horror elements, but also its cinematography, editing, and score as well. It's an assault on your senses pretty much from the jump, and it serves to beat you to death with its themes, and is all the more effective for it. And having Demi Moore as the lead in a film about how we as a society treat aging stars is about as perfect of a casting choice as you can make for this character. This is the most in-your-face and aggressive film on the list, and one of the most in-your-face and aggressive Best Picture nominations of all time. A must-watch for any self-respecting horror fan, and a film that plenty of non-horror fans seem to be loving and stomaching as well. At number 5, we have A Real Pain, nominated for Best Original Screenplay and Supporting Actor. You know how I mentioned how surprising it was that I'm Still Here got into the Best Picture lineup? Well, it unfortunately came at the cost of A Real Pain, which had seemed like a lock to get the nomination. But enough of my bitter woulda, coulda, shouldas. A Real Pain is a buddy comedy drama about two cousins reuniting to take a Jewish heritage tour in Poland in order to honor their recently deceased grandmother. Clocking in at only 90 minutes, this is a simple and brisk exploration of how we each experience pain differently, how we choose to remember and respect the past, and how life can take us in opposite directions, even as family members. Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin work so well as these completely opposite cousins who have grown apart after being so close as kids. Culkin gives the showier, more emotional and eccentric performance, one that will earn him the prize for Best Supporting Actor, but Eisenberg's more neurotic and closed-off performance is just as good opposite him, in my opinion. The film really works due to its excellent screenplay, though, balancing comedy and drama pretty much perfectly, and it'd be my pick to win the Oscar there. I've already watched this twice in the past month, and I would just as happily watch it again today. At number 4, we have Nickel Boys, nominated for Best Picture and Adapted Screenplay. Nickel Boys is probably the most difficult film to actually recommend on this list due to its experimental decision to shoot pretty much the entire film in first person. The camera captures the points of view of Elwood and Turner, two black teens in the 1960s who were sent to an abusive reform school known as Nickel Academy. The first-person POV puts you right there in the events of the film, and this intimacy makes it almost impossible to feel disconnected from this tragic story. And by following our two main characters so closely, it also makes the small, hopeful moments that much more powerful too. It isn't a gimmick, but rather the film's biggest strength, and it's a mystery to me how this got in the Best Picture without picking up a nomination for Best Cinematography. Ramel Ross's direction probably deserved a nomination as well, as his ability to take such a heavy story, combined with such experimental cinematography, manages to come out feeling oddly pleasant at times and much more digestible than the premise might suggest, while still never failing to capture the tragedy of the situation. This is a one-of-a-kind film and one that deserves more attention, even if you find the first-person POV aspect of it hard to get around. At number 3, we have The Brutalist, nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actor, Original Screenplay, Supporting Actor, Supporting Actress, Score, Cinematography, Editing, and Production Design. The Brutalist tells the fictional story of Holocaust survivor and architect Laszlo Toth, who was eventually commissioned to design and construct a community center for the wealthy and snobbish Harrison Lee Van Buren. It would be impossible to fully talk about The Brutalist here in this video. It's a monster of a film, clocking in at around 3.5 hours with a full 15-minute intermission. That intermission cuts the film into 2 parts, with part 1 being a legitimate masterpiece, showing Laszlo's arrival to America, his initial struggles finding his place, and how he comes to eventually be taken under Van Buren's wing. Part 2 is a little messier, but greatly expands the story, the characters, their emotions, their struggles, and ultimately shows how the American dream isn't always as great as it might seem. While the story does perhaps become a little too big for its britches, pretty much everything else is perfection from start to finish. Amongst an absolutely stacked Best Actor category, Adrien Brody stands the tallest in my opinion, and he probably takes home the gold. Guy Pearce and Felicity Jones also give career-high performances as well, though. Every technical aspect of this film is firing on all cylinders, too, and it's Brady Corbett's fantastic, Oscar-worthy direction that brings it all together on a budget that's somehow less than $10 million. The Brutalist gave me the rare experience of watching a film that felt like a classic in the making, and I think this one might stand the test of time better than anything else on this list. At number 2, we have Dune Part 2, nominated for Best Picture, Cinematography, Production Design, Sound, and Visual Effects. I'm going to keep this one brief because this is now the third time I've talked about Dune Part 2 on this channel, and I'm certainly not the only person singing its praises either. This is, point blank, one of the greatest science fiction films of all time. Dune did what it had to set the stage, but Part 2 improves on every aspect imaginable to create a sequel that I can really only compare to The Empire Strikes Back. It's a genre film, so it's got no chance at winning Best Picture, but this would have been my pick from this year's lineup. I know I just said this for The Brutalist, but this is the other film from this year that truly feels like a future classic. And finally, at number 1, we have Sing Sing, nominated for Best Actor, Adapted Screenplay, and Original Song. My number 1 film from this list of nominees did not even receive a Best Picture nomination, and I think that's criminal. A24 completely botched its distribution and campaign to the point where a critically acclaimed film about the healing powers of acting somehow got snubbed by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Unbelievable. But that's not what we're talking about. Sing Sing tells the true story of Divine G, a man wrongly imprisoned at Sing Sing Correctional Facility who served as a leader of sorts for the Rehabilitation Through Arts Program, or RTA for short. As I mentioned, the film really showcases how important the RTA is for prisoners' rehabilitation, and in this film specifically, they're putting on a production of an original comedy. It's light and pleasant and beautiful even, but the cracks start to show once the issues in the real world start to affect Divine G, and subsequently the RTA. Coleman Domingo plays this character so perfectly, bringing a lot of elegance and veteranship to the program, while still struggling to keep himself afloat when things start to spiral in his life. The rest of the cast is almost entirely composed of former prisoners of Sing Sing, who put on this production that this film is about. Of these actors, Clarence Divine I. Macklin really stands out, and he would have been my pick for Best Supporting Actor for sure, but he, of course, also missed a nomination. The writing and directing both feel so warm, while remaining entirely grounded, and the entire second half of the film had me on the verge of tears, both out of sadness and happiness. This is another easy recommendation I would make to just about anyone, and I won't pass up the opportunity to give Sing Sing the love the Oscars clearly should have. I hope you all enjoyed my ranking of the 14 films nominated across the Big 5 Oscar categories. And of course, if you've seen any or all of these movies, I'd love to hear your own personal ranking down in the comments below. And feel free to like and subscribe if you're new. I've been Nathan Orenstein with The No Show. Thanks for watching.